In order to see some traction from the marketing activities, it usually takes the key marketing channels that life science startups should focus on in the beginning are three.
Today on Biotech Orbit, I'm speaking with Teja Sirec, a fractional marketing director who helps life science companies grow faster by building actionable marketing plans and creating content that works. She's worked with both established suppliers and fast-moving biotech startups, building the strategies, processes, and campaigns that get results. In this episode, we talk about her perspective on marketing and how to set it up for success. Hi, Teja. I'm so happy to have you here, and I've been a fan of your posts on LinkedIn for quite some time already. I know that you're a fractional marketing director. That's the first time that I see the word fractional. Can you explain us what does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for inviting me to have this chat with you. And yeah, so basically fractional marketing director is a marketing director who works with the companies who don't have a need or a scope to hire a full-time marketing director in-house, right? Fractional roles usually come in and help with specific challenges that companies have. And once that is resolved, the company moves on and carries on. More specifically, I help smaller or medium-sized life science companies help set up their in-house marketing function. And in those situations, many times it happens they don't have a senior marketing professional in their house just yet, but, they need this expertise to know how to set up the function, what to start doing, what will move the needle, what should be done first. So I help them with this challenge and support them, until they hire their first marketer. And then usually that person can take over with the execution, and then I step back and perhaps just support them with a bit of mentoring or any other, support that they need. Yeah.
I want to know, why did you decide to go to help startups, specifically biotech startups?
Well, why biotech startups? Because I know this space quite well. I have been working in the life science and biotech space for 15 years. First, as a scientist, I've spent about 8 or 9 years working in the lab, so the research bench. And then I moved into commercial marketing functions for the life science companies. And the reason why I decided to adopt this fractional marketing director role is because I feel that, at the moment, there's just not much support out there for people who have this challenge. And yeah, I thought that this is where I could be useful.
All right. So now let's say that I am a founder of this biotech company and I sell lab instruments, which is your specialty, right? What should I even focus on at the beginning? What should my marketing strategy look like?
Well, I think at the beginning, when you're starting to think about marketing strategy, you need to think about just two fundamental questions. So the first one is, so what's do you need to achieve? What does marketing needs to achieve? And this needs a bit of a work, right? So it's really important that what is aligned with the overall business objectives, because company will have goals, objectives, how much of these new instruments they need to sell. So, and based off of that, then you need to figure out, to achieve that many sales, roughly how many leads you will need to generate. And, in order to get those leads, how much and what type of marketing activity you need to do. So this is the first kind of thinking frame that one should do. And then the second one that comes on top of that is how will you do it, right?
Yes.
There are always different ways that you can achieve that, but there you need to think a bit more specifically what you will be doing, when you will be doing things. So I think what and how are, the top level questions that one can start addressing.
I think we should go into the how. Like the first question that comes into my mind is, where should I focus on? Which marketing channels should we even start trying? Like, is there anyone in the biotech industry that is like, oh, you should try that marketing channel?
I think that, the companies, life science companies, they should first establish themselves on the 3 channels that they own and, use them to their best potential first. So these channels are their website. So making sure that there's the website that says what they do, what they offer, and to who. The second one, which is very effective as a channel, is like internal email list. So making sure that that is being used, and the people on the list are getting communications and so on.
Interesting.
And the third one are really the social channels, which is a free distribution channels that company has and can keep pushing the information out.
Actually, I thought that you were going to go in a different direction and that you were going to say it's exhibitions or webinars. Why the website and why the other 2 first?
Well, just because they're, the basis of the identity and what company has, right? The website, there need to be information there because even if you acquire people at the conference, at the webinar, they will go and check out your website. So there needs to be proof of some existence of your product there as well, right? Email list is really important because those are the people you have already acquired. They're already looking at you. So there is literally no cost in sending them out, prompt information about what is being launched. And then, social media too, you just need to have it set up and active. So when you do go to events and when you do organize webinars, which you should, you have a way of distributing that and pushing that out and then getting more people joining the events.
Let's say that I don't have the product yet. I'm in a pre-launch state. Should we start thinking about marketing at that time?
Well, yes, to some degree, because, during the product development cycles, there are usually different stages that the company moves through. And very early on, marketing doesn't have much to do because perhaps there's some conceptualization going on, some early proof of concepts and early alpha instruments and so on. But, at some point when the company has an idea of what exactly they want to develop that product for what application, for what kind of customer, roughly when they want to launch it. Marketing kind of should be informed throughout the process, but, as the product development progresses with its stages, then marketing starts getting more and more involved and planning those product launches really. And it needs to happen, many months before the product gets launched because, depending on what kind of approach one decides to take. But sometimes, people want to book some webinars with some high profile webinar suppliers or secure some, speakers. And those things need to be done, multiple months in advance to get the slots. Or perhaps, company could decide to focus their launch around a major conference that is happening in their space. So, there need to be many months before it launches so that the marketing team should kind of start thinking and planning and working on that.
Wow. And actually this connects to the next question, which you already answered something that we should be starting even before we think we should start. That's what I understood. After we start, how long does it actually usually take to start gaining traction? That's a big question.
Yeah, I think it depends on 2 things. So one thing, it depends on the product, right? How big of a problem it solves and how unique this problem is. Because if in your product, you're solving a challenge that a certain group of people have, and it's really a big problem for them and they don't have an alternative, this will generate quite big appeal for the product, right? And the second one is it really depends on how well you target your marketing activities, right? So if you go to a show where there will be thousands of the people working in that space, that will get you like a lot of people. So basically it depends on the appeal, depends on the targeting and the volume of the people that you can get to hear about your new product.
All right. So first you mentioned that we should have the website, we should have the email list, and use our social media platforms, right? And then you mentioned that maybe exhibitions, at least for now, I heard that exhibitions are pretty good. And now the question will be the budget. How much budget should we put into marketing? And what would that budget look like?
Well, yeah, again, I will say it depends, but it mostly depends on one thing. How big is the gap between your current situation, let's say your pipeline, and what you need to achieve, right? If that gap is very big, you will need to invest quite a lot because you will need to build a lot of assets and do quite a lot of activity to get enough people in that then will kind of fall into the sales funnel. But if that gap is not so big or smaller, then, the budget will be proportional to that.
What do you think is the biggest mistake they usually make related with marketing?
So I won't say that that's a biggest mistake, but this is something that I see quite often, which is that they start perhaps a little bit late and they underestimate the fact that the buyer behavior cycles are just long, right? I think what I would recommend founders always to do if they are thinking, oh, when should I start doing some marketing? You just try to calculate that back. Like, what is the average length of your sales cycle? If that is 1 year, it means that the leads that I'll start generating, let's say in May 2025, will have chances to close a year after, for example. So they need to take that in account, and then also the fact that there is a process from the moment when people first hear about the solution and then kind of work through that, learn about it, and maybe there is a need that comes up and then they start buying. So the timelines are quite long, and this is not because it takes a long time for marketing to deliver. It's just because, the dynamics of the buying behavior and, sales cycles is long in B2B.
Makes sense. Okay. So basically, if let's say it takes 6 months to make a sale, I should probably start marketing 12 months before, maybe?
Yeah, you need to do calculations based on that. And again, those are forecasts, those are predictions, but, those are, the forecasts that then are quite safe and reliable in, getting your POs and orders in on time. Yeah.
Communicating science has always been my passion, and I run a studio called Med Productions. Honestly, this podcast only exists because Med Productions does. We create science animations from scripting to final video to help biotech teams explain their work to the people they're trying to reach, whether that's investors, healthcare providers, or the general public. You can learn more and get in touch with us at medproductions.media. If you liked the episode, feel free to subscribe. It helps us bring in more great guests and share more biotech stories. All right, now let's talk a little bit about messaging. What should the message look like? Should it be about the price or the technology, or what should it look like?
I think that when, building messaging for a life science product, there are 3 things that are important for me. And I'll tell you how I look at it. It's really important that it's clear what the product is. The second thing, what is it for? So what it does. And the third thing, like, who is it for, right? I think these are the three elements that if they are clear, they will cut through and they will talk to to your target customers. So I don't think it's that much about, price performance, but it's more making sure that these three questions are addressed.
It's going to the basics then, and then just going from there. And as a startup, I believe we also need to build trust because nobody knows us. So why would I trust that small company with like 10 people? How should we build trust?
So how should we build trust? I think that the companies should build trust in a simple way, which is, keeping the promises that they make to their customers. So that is the fundamental thing below this ambition. And then there's a question also, how do we kind of showcase that? So once you do that, you will have some testimonials. There will be some other social proofs like peer-reviewed publications and so on. But I think it's really about, building great products that solve a real challenge that people have. And then just deliver on what you promised that the product will do.
What type of content moves the needle? Should it be webinars, blog posts, or something else?
Yeah. So this is a good question. So my opinion is that the content that moves the needle is the content that answers the questions that the prospects and customers have. Right?
Period.
And then, on top of that, then there is the choice of the format, whether you want to have it as a blog, so it will work for you, long term of your website for SEO and all that. Do you want to have it as a video on YouTube, so that people find you also on that portal, which is used quite a lot for educational purposes? Or, webinar is another format, another type, is like an event that would kind of attract people. So then it's the choice of formats and channels, but, what content will get read? The answer is, the one that answers the questions and the doubts that the scientists that would be using it have. Yeah.
Makes sense. And making it discoverable, basically, which would be YouTube or LinkedIn. And I wanted to add as well that those videos that would go on YouTube or the webinar, they can be repurposed. And that will also help a lot.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think, that's like important point what you said, because repurposing is exactly this. You do a webinar, you can make a video out of it. You can write a blog. You can, you can pull quotes out of the webinar that, people have said. You can collect the questions that people have asked, and those are new content ideas. So it's about really understanding, fundamentals, and then just trying to make the most out of each marketing activity that you do.
Do you think that startups should invest in an animation, in a video?
So I think, having a video or animation of the technology is very good investment to make at the beginning if, the company can secure the budget. And the reason is because it is just part of that initial discovery of customers. They come to your website or they hear about you and you tell them what the technology is about. It's something completely new. So sometimes it's hard to imagine, but those animations and videos, those visual aspects help people understand what it is about. So it's very helpful from that perspective. You can have it on your website. You can use it on YouTube for, for videos, for presentations, even in the sales presentations. So that's great. And then there's another aspect, which, for which I do recommend companies having videos or animations, is for use with some conferences, because I know that there are some major conferences, for example, in cell and gene therapy space. And I think there's also Analytica, which give you an option to upload a video to their exhibitor portal. And of course, usually investments to go to such conference are quite high, right? Those are big shows. You need to send a few people from your team. So, having that video on your portal that people can see and look at when they're preparing for the show, I think it's a great additional touch point, perhaps improving your chances of people, saying, oh, now I get it, what they do. I'll pass by their booth.
What are common mistakes startups make at their first exhibition?
I think a common mistake startups make when, early on when they start going to exhibitions is that they underestimate the value of the preparation that is done before the show itself, which means, in months before the show, being very proactive about securing some meetings in advance, communicating the fact that you will be there through your email, through your socials, through the channels that you have available. So basically doing the activities that will secure some meetings already in advance to the show itself, and perhaps also organize some activities at the booth so it will drive some additional people who just want to come and check it out. So probably that's, the one step that people miss at the beginning.
All right. So basically, at the booth, put something that makes it interesting and people to come over. And those are more of a passive type, right? And the other one that you mentioned is to schedule meetings. So that would be checking who's going to go, which other exhibitors are going to go, and could be our potential customers, I assume.
Yes, what I meant about scheduling meetings is, people who would go to the show in early days. There might be CEO, there might be, I don't know, a sales head, a product, people developing products. There we have their own networks, people that have touched base with in the past. So reaching out to them saying, are you going to the show? I'll be there. I don't know, just arranging meetings with people who they already know they might have interest. And then, they can expand this. There are plenty of tools that allow you to kind of do some bit more of a cold outreach. So it really, depends. But I guess my message is, do not just show up at an event and just gather the passive traffic, because you're really losing on quite some potential there. That's the bottom message. Yeah.
Right. And now let's go online, from exhibitions to webinars. It's basically the same question. What mistakes do you usually see? And what would be a good webinar?
So a good webinar for me has two parts. So one is in the planning. So how it is designed. So does it actually talk about a problem that people have, and that will motivate people to come to the webinar. And the second aspect is really the execution. For me, good webinars are those which manage to establish some two-way communication in the webinar, right? And this means that there are parts where, people are presenting, there is discussion between people that are moderating and presenting. And then there's also some real kind of discussion or meaningful questions coming from the audience. And I see companies coming up with all kinds of different interesting ways how to make this two-way communication and, make it more engaging. So yeah.
And then you also mentioned email lists at the beginning. And I wanted to ask you, how do we capture all those emails?
Yeah. So basically, there's a very basic way of doing it, which is making sure that on the website, there is a way to sign up to the email list, to the updates, which is easy to find. And, sort that out first. And people who are interested, who already found you, want to hear about you, they will sign up.
Okay.
Then, there are other ways how to grow that email list. Of course, if you're doing the events, the webinars, people who come and join, they might want to opt in to the communications. People who you meet at conferences, they also might want to opt in email communications. So basically, there are ways of capturing those and growing this list.
Post sales, we made our first sale or second sale. We made sales. Do we need to keep marketing, or do we need to do something else after selling?
Well, marketing never stops, right? So yes, you need to keep marketing because you probably need to keep selling more and more products, and you need to keep getting, new people in who might be interested, who have that problem and might have a need and will need to buy. So that needs to keep on going, of course. And then, of course, it's also nice to keep in touch with the early customers, to capture some feedback. Some of the early customers, they might start generating some nice data, publishing papers. So, by keeping in touch, then you can invite them to run webinars with you, co-write a blog post. I don't know. There are, plenty of ideas you can come up with.
What are the metrics in marketing that we should be taking a look at?
Well, for sure, the metrics that are part of your objectives as per marketing plan. And this will be unique to each business. But other than that, people should be tracking how their individual marketing channels are performing. And then, something that I also do recommend businesses to track, especially small businesses, the metrics which I call early indicators of the future growth, future pipeline growth. And those are not leads. Those are metrics which come much earlier on. But again, they are an indicator of what will happen later.
All right.
And these are the search volumes of your branded keywords. What does this mean? It means that if you see that each quarter there are more and more people searching for your branded terms, which could be your company name, it could be your product name, it could be name of your technology. If your technology is unique, if you're the only one who's commercializing it, it could be names of the founders, of investors. So if those numbers of the searches are growing over time, that is a good indicator that also commercial interest will start growing. And the reason is because if you see these searches in Google, it means that there are more and more people each quarter who remember you well enough that they go in Google and they research you. And that's the beginning of the discovery and the consideration phase. So yeah, I guess my message is look at that. And if those numbers are not growing, then you need to review your marketing approach. Yeah.
Now, at the end of each episode, we usually ask rapid fire questions. Are you ready for them?
Okay, let's go for it.
What's your comfort food after a stressful day?
My favorite one is a cornetto with coffee. So this would be a croissant.
What's a weird skill or random fact you're proud of?
I don't know, perhaps that I speak 3 languages. So yeah, English, Slovenian, and Italian.
One thing on your bucket list.
I would like to write a book one day.
If you were a lab instrument, what would you be and why?
Considering that with my work, I help companies grow, I thought that if I would be a lab instrument, perhaps I would be an incubator because
makes sense. Makes total sense.
Grow, and without that, you can't do any experiments. So it's really important to have a quality incubator in your lab.
If AI could do a part of your job, what would that be?
Okay, it would be all the admin that there is to do.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Teja. And we'll be seeing each other on LinkedIn, I think.
Yeah, thank you so much. And it was really nice to having this chat with you.